it, it's been a while since I've reported on what's been happening. I think where we left off some time ago, you remember that Addrotica took a pregnancy test, and she's pregnant, which brings up a lot of other things to talk about. Uh, in the beginning, we used the magnetic fields to implant the nanobots at certain regions of the brain. And maybe you remember that President Obama spent a lot of the taxpayers' money doing brain mapping that long ago. Um, so it's well known by now, where the important regions are in the brain, and that's where the magnetic fields put the concentrations or clouds of nanobots in those specific regions to have pronounced effects in some other areas of the brain, having priority over other areas of the brain. And then one of the things just mentioned in passing, when these nanobots are constructed, around the molecules, they're surrounded by proteins that make them acceptable into the cells in the body, so that they can be ingested and taken into the cell nucleus where they do their work. And I think we mentioned before that um, uh, not only do they improve the permeability of the membrane to intake nutrients and get rid of waste material for cell metabolism, but they're able to go in and be accepted into the cell nucleus like an mRNA, so that the actual DNA of the cell creates certain aspects. And then we talked about how a pair of the molecules actually unzipped the DNA, and then the other molecule did the spell checking on the DNA, and then the last two actually went in and removed that timing mechanism in the cell that causes a gradual degeneration or aging over time. And then I guess it wouldn't be unexpected, but one of the benefits or consequences of this is that the nanobots eventually do get loose, do get distributed throughout the body. Um, I don't think I mentioned this, that there's an estimate between 50 billion and 75 billion neurons are in the brain, but there are 50 trillion cells in your body. And we did an injection of 100 trillion nanobots. So there's plenty of nanobots to go all over the body and find their way into all of the cells in the body. And then one of the reasons why somebody as old, Adrotic is approaching their biological clock, but when the cells get loose, the nanobots get loose into the cells, the endocrine cells that set up the hormones of the body, they can refresh or re-trigger her biological clock so that she does become fertile. And then Al's physical vigor, and the endocrine glands, setting up new increased and balanced loads of male hormones, so that they're very sexually vigorous partner. So why wouldn't they become pregnant? Yeah, absolutely. And then you're left with the puzzle. Well, if they have become impregnated, or if they have a baby, how many of these nanobots get passed on through the egg or through the embryo and end up in the embryo's brain? That's kind of something to talk about in the future. Meantime, significant emotional events being what they may. I talked about the celebration at the resort, celebrating the FDA approval on the first set of 3 nanobots being just injected on a clinical outpatient basis, like intraocular lenses, and that would alleviate Alzheimer's and dementia, which is an economic level gain in itself. But then the part of the research that Al and Erotica are involved in would be elevating the brain so that it becomes Wi-Fi compatible and so that all the information on the internet is available as their innate memory or their mental memory. And that kind of acceleration and experimentation is taking place in San Diego as we speak, because the last group of 4 couples are at the resort right now, and Addrotica are down in San Diego. But it ceases to become such a delightful, immersive, sensual resort atmosphere to more of a clinical setting, because we've already established that their brains have been accelerated to the point where they can think 1,000 times faster than any of the rest of us, just because of the elevation of the nanobots that's already taken place in their brain. So now we have to start developing their ability to handle that amount of information and then to do something with it. We don't quite know what's going to eventually be done with these accelerated human beings. I personally, and I've proposed in earlier episodes, that somehow extraterrestrial beings have been playing Star Trek with us for a long time throughout the ages, and what we're facing now is just the next evolution of the human species. So that kind, yeah, and that kind of clinical rigor or upbearing is being brought about in the San Diego facilities. It's a lot like IQ testing, or instead of walking on the beach, or you're engaged in different kinds of inputting of information, and then taking tests to see how that information has become embodied in your mind, or now your mind is actually the internet now, isn't it? So instead of thinking about my memories, I just think about everything that's on the internet, and that's accessible to me. So now I'm going under a bunch of clinical studies and psychological testing to see how well and how thoroughly I can access, and then how adept I am at reiterating what I find on the internet, and reporting how much accomplished I've become. You could think about it in terms of like, you think it's a real, I know 2 or 3, or people that know 12 languages. Well, I can be tested to see if I know 24 or 36 or all the languages on the planet, for that sake, because you can get a translation of any language. So now that's available. And you've got all the AI techniques that are able to look at other X-rays or other results from the medical industry and make an assessment that no physician is able to make. Or you can make chat GPT searches in the legal world, and you know all of the outcomes of all of the cases. So that's the kind of thing that can be tested. And then I'm proposing that after we reach that level in San Diego, there's a next stage where we go out to a remote island in the Pacific, off the coast of Ecuador, or what I've referred to, not here, but in conversations I've referred to as the bird shit islands, like off of Galapagos, where all the seabirds come in. Well, there's some islands that have nothing other than just a nesting or a resting facility for seabirds, and through the millennia, they built up into this giant pile. They used to be harvested for fertilizer that was brought into Europe before the ammonia was created by the German chemists. And that's another story entirely. Well, thanks for listening to me today, and I'll try to post again in just a bit. Bye-bye.